Deep Dive Film School makes no claim of ownership of the film footage used in this episode. The film footage is owned entirely by the copyright holders. Also, we're going to spoil the hell out of this movie, so this is your warning. Welcome to Deep Dive Film School!
This week we're going to begin a new festival, Political Fiction, and we're going to start off with 1997 Barry Levinson movie, Wag the Dog.
Let's dive in! Everybody, I am Adam Sherlock.
And I'm Adam Palcher.
And this week, we decided to get into this new festival talking about political fiction. Before we get started with that, of course, like and subscribe if you like what you see /here.
That's right.
We've got our stuff out there on Twitter, Instagram,
all the things.
Facebook, all the places and spaces. Hit the notification bell if you want to know more.
New episodes
we already
every
did this
week.
Where I'm not pointing at it. That's the thing. I don't know where I'm pointing. I'm not going to point anymore. I'm done pointing. Palcher, tell us about this. Thank you. Palcher, tell us about this new festival.
I just thought it's a very politically trying time right now.
Yes.
And political fiction, reality is always stranger than fiction is the term, right? And some of the stuff that we're going to talk about throughout this festival, I think, is extremely relevant.
Well, it
possible.
edges. Yeah, it edges into these places of possibility.
Yeah.
Like you're saying, that make you go, in this movie, that we're talking about today, it's like you think about, so this is 97, the Wag the Dog comes out, Barry Levinson. Obviously, Diner, Good Morning Vietnam, Rain Man,
Sleepers, Sphere.
Sphere, yes, a very underrated,
and
very
of
underrated
course,
Barry Levinson film. But
another underrated Barry Levinson film, Disclosure, where Demi Moore rapes Michael Douglas. I don't know if rape is the word, but I don't know.
She goes down on him. But anyway, but I think that there is something about... It still could be rape. I'm so sorry. I'm going to cut all this. But I think that it's like, watching this one in 97, obviously we're talking about the pre-internet age. Mm-hmm. I think there still is a lot of conspiracy theory kind of stuff out there that exists. But there's something so specific about, like, when watching this movie, I was like, oh my God, this movie is so funny and so well written and so smart. And yet at the same time, is such a wet fever dream for the Alex Jones false flag conspiracy theorists out there.
Yeah,
that it didn't make it hard to enjoy. It was incredibly easy to enjoy this movie.
Yeah, it's a wonderful movie.
But I will say at the same time, the cynical and really creepily conspiracy-minded age that we live in, it reminded me kind of the conspiracy theorists in Slacker, where you're like, not quite as cute anymore, right? Like, it still is such a brilliant film, but you go, oh, if this came out today, there would be a lot more dialogue about it. Or saying, like, is this influencing people who really believe this shit? That they can't just be taken as a fun fantasy idea?
If this came out today, man, I don't even know the reaction it would get. It's kind of wild to think about what, just the fact of the time it came out. It was like something like 6 months to a year after this came out. Bill Clinton had a sexual scandal very similar to the president that happens in here, and it mimics the movie very loudly sometimes, to the point where during Monica Lewinsky's testimony, they were bombing Al Qaeda, so they could kind of steal headlines.
Yes, it was like this movie comes out, less than 6 months later, the Clinton-Lewinsky scandal happens, and then they report a missile strike on the Al-Shifa pharmaceutical company in Sudan, where they were apparently processing VX nerve agent for Al-Qaeda. And you go, and like, once that happens, how could you not be like, well, raise some eyebrows? I mean, I feel like if you made this movie today, there would be very not Pollyanna types. Like, I think you would have some real sophisticated outlets saying, don't make this movie. Please don't make this movie. All it's going to do is add harm.
I think,
which is insane to think about.
I think it's necessary. I think it does what art is supposed to do and challenge the narrative.
Yes.
I think it's a wonderful behind the scenes look at American politics, media, Hollywood, just pundits in general.
Yes.
And the whole point of, diverting the public's attention with this bigger thing, which our president now currently does constantly. And
look over here. Look over there.
Remember that? Nope.
You guys should probably watch this.
You don't remember that, but it is an election year, so this festival seemed to make sense, and you don't change horses in midstream. You know that, right?
Oh God,
you know that.
That is so. One of the things I love about this.
That's an Abraham Lincoln campaign slogan.
Is it really?
It is.
No, you're absolutely right. And actually, this like fake reality that has all the trappings of that beautiful fake reality, whether it be the campaign commercials or the guy who made a movie that's actually this other thing, reminds me of stuff like these other movies that I feel like create this full tapestry fake world. I'm thinking of things like True Romance, where we have the producer who made Coming Home in a Body Bag, right? Or like stuff like The Player, where we get all these like real actors playing fake figures.
Yeah.
But then all the way to something like Doctor Strangelove, where you're like,
absolutely,
you go, oh, this could happen. I mean, and Doctor Strangelove could easily be on this list of this political fiction
I was
thing.
thinking about that today, actually. Like, next week we are doing the Peter Sellers movie, Being There, and it definitely had me thinking of Doctor Strangelove. He's so outstanding, and all of Kubrick's stuff. But I don't know, this whole idea of a spin doctor and a Hollywood producer coming together. And also, I think we need to note that some of our cast here, we have Robert De Niro and Dustin Hoffman, two of our generational actors together,
all-timers
together,
yes.
And their scenes together just outstanding. And they've done a couple other movies, but they're like Meet the Fockers and stuff. It's nothing quite like this. And so,
well, and to see De Niro play a character so out of type for him, and he isn't aping a character he's done before, like a Meet the Fockers kind of a thing, or an Analyze This kind of a thing.
Yeah.
Instead, it's this wholly brilliant, and it's so good that it's De Niro, because what we need for this character, Connie, which I love that his name's it's Conrad, but it's like, it's Connie, right? But I love that with his like soft kind of like goofy hat that he wears, and his kind of like unshaven, like whatever kind of guy.
Not what you would think a political fixer looks like, though, right?
No, but at the same time, you need, we talk about it all the time. There's another Ebertism, the economy of the actor. Yep. You need a guy who has an underlying little like undercurrent of threat. And he never needs to flex it. He doesn't have to do anything with it. But obviously the guy knows where the bodies are buried.
No doubt.
Literally,
no doubt.
Right? Like that is who he is. And yet he never needs to show it. He has the rumpled suit and he's just like unassuming. And the bow tie. But at the same time, even when William H. Macy shows up with the CIA to flex on him, he doesn't flap an eye. Like he's like, whatever, man. You really want to get into an argument about this? Let's do it. And they're like, who do you work for? And he says, you don't want me to say his name here. And you're just like, we never learn that, but it's like, God, what an amazing...
We don't need to know,
It's one of the best characters.
I agree.
Such an incredible character.
I think he understands all the inner workings, using the power of the media to... Yep. He's like, of course it happened. I saw it on TV is the kind of his go-to.
Oh, I love that.
And it's just like, it exists because now we see it. And it's...
Well, one of the very first things he says is, what difference does it make if it's true?
Yeah, go to war with Albania. Why not? Why not Albania? Yeah, no one knows shit about it. You take advantage of what people don't know and make it seem important. I have to say equally here, this might be one of my favorite Dustin Hoffman roles.
I agree.
He plays Stanley
I completely agree.
And, right from the beginning, he's in the tanning bed. He loves the idea of a new challenge, this story, but it just. I don't know if you knew this, but he based this character off of Robert Evans, which is so perfect.
Read this.
I didn't realize that until I did my research.
Did you hear what Evans said about it when he was asked?
No.
Like, is that your character? Evans said, yeah, I'm magnificent in that film.
Of course he did.
Even the big glasses with the tint on him, all of that is perfect. It is such a great performance, and I mean, I don't know. I haven't watched enough of Robert Evans to know how close it is. Apparently, Dustin.
that was pretty good. It was pretty good.
I mean, Dustin Hoffman said, maybe a little bit from that, but I kind of made my own thing. But one of my favorite things about his character is that, yes, 2/3 of the time he's just telling old stories about Hollywood. Like,
this is nothing.
We didn't have the rights to tell
I was halfway through shooting, and found out we didn't even have the rights.
Yeah, like, but his unwavering optimism, as the quote you were just doing. This is nothing. All the way down to like a plane crashes. And he's like, "You're ready to give up? Why?" Like,
I know those are 3 simple words. This is nothing, but they're so effective every time he says them. And it actually made AFI's 100 Greatest Lines.
Oh my God, really?
100 movies, 100 Greatest Lines.
That's perfect.
And so it's I don't know. I remember him getting nominated. I don't know if he won though. But I don't know. This is such a fun movie. Let's get into a little bit more about what this is. Obviously, we've touched on the scandal and a little bit of kind of the behind the scenes access that we get through this movie.
Yes.
But I think a poignant point in the movie is when they're at Dustin Hoffman's house the first time, and they're really kind of figuring out, what it is they need him to do. And the reason he's on is because he's Hollywood, but there's a pageant and there's a song and there's a theme and there's a it's a teaser, right?
Yeah, we don't need an
Hollywood
act 2.
Teaser.
We don't need an act 2. This is just a teaser. Yeah,
it's just a teaser.
Oh, hey,
and of
Barbara,
course it isn't.
It's a teaser. Yeah, he tells his assistant, and she's like, "Oh, okay." But it is, yeah. It's like it's this colliding of these 2 languages, right? Like,
for sure,
these 2 understandings of really propaganda.
Faking people out.
Yeah, propaganda. Yeah. And that mix of Hollywood and Washington is so fun.
It's so perfect. But to prove the poignant moment I was getting at was the point where Dustin Hoffman is basically saying, "How close are you to this?" And he's like, "What do you want him to say?"
Such a beautiful
and then he
moment.
says, and then he gets it on he does the whole thing, and he's like, "Hey, no," it gets him to say it, and he's like, he didn't sell the line.
Yeah, he didn't sell it. And we see this come back again later when
always producing.
When he needs he's written this speech for the president to say to sell the next part of their lie.
Oh, might be my favorite moment of the movie.
And he's like, get me 50 secretaries in the Oval Office. And he gets up there and he reads it. And I love that we never see the president. The president, we always just see his shoulders and the back of the head. So he could be this proxy for anybody. But my God, when all of those secretaries walk out and there's not a dry eye there, and he's like, "Corny? Is it corny? I don't think it's corny." Like, it's so perfect.
Like you said, the amount of optimism and the amount of confidence he has is like, no, this is I know good when I see good, and this is good.
Yeah,
we're doing this.
Look, they don't have an Oscar for the best producer, and they should, because like, I don't know if you've heard that, but like,
which is incorrect, because best picture is always to the producer,
right? But still, I just love that that's his thing.
Let's get into the writers' room here at the beginning of the scandal, where they're really starting to create it. We get
we're going to talk about Dennis Leary and his trench coat. Is that what we're going to talk about?
Well, and Willie Nelson, of course, who has an amazing cameo here.
Amazing cameo.
Let's get into what you thought of the execution of this whole plan.
Well, this is one of this moment to me of this writer's room at his house is one of the reasons why this being a Barry Levinson movie becomes important. Because what Barry Levinson...
Quick side note.
Yes.
When you think about this movie, did you realize David Mamet wrote the screenplay? because I get what you're talking about, because this is not a normal Barry Levinson dialogue heavy movie.
Yeah, I didn't at first, but when I read that Mamet did the screenplay, I was like, oh, that makes perfect sense.
It totally does,
because his electric,
I see where you're going.
Really acerbic writing style, it makes perfect sense here. But the other thing that makes this so Barry Levinson, and it's interesting because you go, okay, Rain Man, Good Morning Vietnam, like he has all these heavy hitters, but this thing harkens all the way back to Diner, of one of Barry Levinson's biggest strengths, which is letting this camera whip pan into bits of conversation. There are people talking over, which I don't even know how you direct this thing. I don't know how you let everybody be talking, this like buzzing bees of really smart, fun, prickly conversation. And then he whip pans into the middle of part of the conversation to get nuggets. And then he whips back out, and then he whips into some other part of the conversation with other people to almost get the punchline for the joke that happened over here. It's masterful. Like that ability to jump back and forth.
Absolutely. It's way more subtle, too, than something like you think of the opening scene of Boogie Nights or something like that, where it's very specific, and you're hitting people at certain paces and moments, where here it's just like... It's
back
way
and
faster.
forth. Well, and there's an ongoing joke that you just assume is a joke until it becomes the linchpin for the climax of the film, which is how much everybody hates this fucking "don't change horses in midstream," election campaign commercial, right? That it's like the fact that it keeps coming up is this great regurgitated joke, and we'll get to why it becomes a very important part of the film later on, but it's so great every time that it comes up, and you have all these writers being like, this is horseshit, people believe this shit, like, and it's just these artists commenting on other artists' propaganda.
Exactly. That's why I love it, though, is because they keep poking them through the whole movie, like, and they keep commenting. It's like, why do they keep going with this shit? This is the worst. Like, I'm not gonna have some hack ass guy take my, take whatever.
Credit for my whatever. Well, but I think this bouncing back and forth of just these nuggets of the conversation without ever it's like once we've established De Niro as this fixer, and then Hoffman as the producer for it, and then his cadre of people, Dennis Leary, Willie Nelson, all these other people. Once we've established all of that, we don't need to be hit over the head with exposition. All we need are these beautiful little moments of this, and it's one of these things where it's so cynical it goes through the looking glass to the other side, where we're laughing with them. It reminded me of something like Wolf of Wall Street, where it's like you need to set your morals at the door in order to enjoy this, because if you have your morals with you through this journey, you'll be disgusted by everyone. So instead, you got to set them aside and come along for this journey of debauchery. Because we're headed places.
I agree, and really the balance of everything here, like you said, there's not a bunch of exposition. We're not necessarily. I mean, like you see the moments where things didn't work out like they thought they would, and they have to react to it, right? and the balance of everything flowing, comedy and drama. It's close to a perfect movie.
It is.
If you look at it from that stuff.
It is.
It's so enjoyable every time I watch it. And like we were saying earlier, the meld of Hollywood and politics it's like peanut butter and jelly.
Well, think about to go to your point here of like that it doesn't need to sell itself more than if you've accepted to go on the journey. This calico cat conversation.
Okay, let's just get into the whole Albanian.
Let's get into the Albanian
teaser.
Green,
it's a teaser.
Yeah, the green screen war, right, of Albania. Well, and there's this
Kirsten Dunst is
Kirsten Dunst. Yes.
Dunst. Yeah, not Fred Durst's daughter. Maybe I don't know. There's a photo.
She would bury that. She would bury that on her resume.
Yeah, for sure.
Or be the starring actress in The Fanatic.
But this whole thing, I always loved movies about movies and watching movies.
Oh, same here. Same here.
That's always
that puppet string aspect is always so much fun.
The behind the scenes stuff. Yep. You think of Living in Oblivion, anything like that, where you're really on set.
Yep.
And we really get to see Hoffman shine here. Just
Oh
he's
my
like,
God.
it couldn't be simpler getting this cat. It couldn't be simpler.
And this guy
I said,
keeps trying to
"This
sell
guy
me on
keeps-
this Lhasa Apso.
he keeps pushing this dog. I'm just crying. It's so funny. But we have this like the Albanian teaser.
Yes.
And they're setting it up, and she's like, so what am I doing? Like, what's this for? Like, when is this gonna be released?
I can put this on my reel, right? I can put this on my reel.
Favorite line of the movie though happens when she's holding the bag of chips.
Yeah.
And it's supposed to be the cat. They're like, oh, it's digital effects. We'll put it in later.
We'll
And
punch
she's
it.
like, what?
We'll punch it in. She's like, you're gonna
'Cause,
punch
like-
the cat later?
Why would you do that? but she's holding the bag and makeup's all over, and the guy, and you could tell it's like the assistant director. He's like, stop the makeup. She's been raped by terrorists.
That's right.
And I was just crying.
I mean,
it's so good.
And that's just it. Is it's like,
Clever, funny, like,
but also has the undercurrent of the horrifying aspect. Like it's
like
able
everything
to,
matters. Yeah.
It's able to phone all of that stuff in and really telegraph it to us without ever having to show anything. Like we as the audience, there is an exception that war is awful, propaganda is awful. And then it uses this like really prickly, beautiful subtext where they keep talking about they. Well, we can't do that. And, De Niro's character is always like, why? He's like, because they'll find out. And he's like, who? He's like, they. And he's like, the American people. And they're like, shit, I don't know. Yeah, like they. Like the they. And
it comes down to the power of an image, right? And that what we were talking about
as
earlier.
De Niro always says,
like,
I saw it on TV.
It happened. It's on TV. It's on TV.
Well, and he tells these lies that way too, where he's like, look, they this many billions of dollars on a war in Afghanistan and Iraq in the 90s, and what was the only thing we saw? We saw one smart bomb go down a chimney into a house and they blew it up. And he's like, I was there. I watched them do it. The house was made out of Legos. And they go, is that true? And he's like, I don't know. What do you think? Like even his truths.
There's always
are
that
these,
question.
like,
yeah.
Yeah. Are these like elastic things? And I love that about this because it keeps it so smart. It never treats the audience as if they're dumb.
I agree completely. And it makes it so fun. I can't believe we've gotten this far into this review and we haven't talked about Anne Heche.
Oh my God, I know. She's so amazing.
She's so fucking brilliant
She's
here.
so
And she
good.
definitely has an amazing breakdown moment near the end of the movie. But she is the middle woman here. She's the one on the phone with the president relaying all this information, right?
Yeah, yeah.
And she's in the deep of it. She's an accomplice for all of this.
Yeah.
But she fits so naturally.
And she's
Man,
convinced,
she's so fun.
like when the CIA, when William H. Macy's character shows up, she's like, I'm taking medication, and it's affecting my judgment. And then De Niro's like, just calm down.
Yeah.
She's so good, and at the same time, she gets swept up into this.
Yeah.
But at every turn, like, oh my God, when the jet that they're on crashes.
Oh man.
And she just like loses her mind at Dustin Hoffman's character.
It's classic.
She's calling him like a pinko draft dodger and like it's so good. And he's unflappable. He's like, you think this is a problem? And there's like flames next to them. Since we're already talking about Anne Heche, let's talk about this pivot. This amazing, because we are so swept up in this lie that they're telling about this Albanian suitcase bomb that's in Canada for some reason from these Albanian terrorists.
Why not Canada? Why not?
Why not Canada? Why not Canada? Suitcase bomb. Can you believe I'm saying this? I didn't even hear myself say it. I just said suitcase bomb. It just came out.
It's just natural.
But then the CIA, quote unquote, ends the war. Right? It's another war has ended. And we
this
get
is the
we have
William
this
H. Macy part.
Well, this is after that. We have this great foil in why can't I think of his name? Coach.
Craig T. Nelson.
Craig T. Nelson. Thank you. This great foil that we only ever meet on TV as the opponent that's running against the president.
Yeah.
And he somehow cuts this deal with the CIA, and he gets to make the announcement that the Albanians are standing down. And that's when Dustin Hoffman's character is like, Act 2. Now we got to have an
hero.
Act 2. And we need a hero, the old shoe.
You're skipping a major part here, and I thought this was it was a great fake out, because they start like they're gonna start having this music montage.
Oh my God, yes.
And you think, oh, this is some cheesy ass song, and you cut to the studio, and Willie Nelson is orchestrating
it.
Basically, We Are the World, right?
And listen,
what they're trying to mimic there.
I completely forgot. I have so many movies that I have put into the bank of fantastic studio moments. And so, like, you got your Boogie Nights, you got your Spinal Tap, you've got all these great ones.
Yep.
And I completely forgot about putting this movie in there, because their We Are the World moment.
On the Rock of Liberty.
Yeah. On the Rock of Liberty. Like, it's so good. It's so good. And I was like...
But so bad.
That's what makes it perfect. And I was like, oh my God, you have to... you cut to that classic scene of Bob Dylan doing We Are the World, and he looks totally confused as to where he is. It's like, what's happening? Like,
where is the world?
Where's the world? Yeah. No, but you're absolutely right. It's such a beautiful montage. And you're like, this is going to be the music montage. And then they're like, the war's over. And he's like, turn off that fucking song. Like,
yeah. Oh man, it hits every like thing you think it might be when it's being made, and
completely.
I mean, and it's the continuing smart, fun, engaging dialogue that we have going on here. And then, like, let's get to what you're talking about. The war is over. I saw it on television.
Yep.
Act 2, the hero, old shoe. A good old shoe, and luckily Willie's still in the studio.
Well, and he's not just in there by himself. He's in there with friggin' Pop Staples. This is like, you think about the Staples sisters, like, this is their dad, and he's in this movie. And like, my God, you understand that Levinson, being such a music fanatic, I mean, he has put, obviously, the score here by Dire Straits. Why am I at a loss for the dude's name?
I didn't know that.
Yeah, that's who did the soundtrack here. I'll put it up. Oh, there you go. But obviously a huge musical fan, but to be able to get just footage of Willie Nelson and Pop Staples riffing on this bluesy song is so dope, man. It's so dope.
All day I would watch that for sure. Yeah. The only thing that kind of bugged me is, why did they pretend he works there and is trying to kick Willie Nelson out? Like, they don't know. Yeah. I was like, what? And then they sit down and write this amazing song.
And he's like, and I love this. They're workshopping it on the other side of the studio booth. And he's like, can we make it sound old? And he's like, yeah, with an old label. And then when they run in with the
old
78,
old shoe,
they run in with this 78 to give it to Library of Congress. And he's like,
boom.
When you meet together with this guy, when you meet with him, like, maybe just say, oh, wasn't there a song? Like, it's so smart. It's so damn smart.
I love how big their scope is, how much they're able to reach. That basically the movie makes it seem like anything you want done can be done. We can make that happen. Yep. And it's politics at its finest.
But then it gets worse and worse and worse. Because they've got the old shoe, Woody Harrelson's character, who turns out to be a nun rapist. And then then gets murdered.
Reading his rap sheet. He's reading his rap sheet. He's like, nope. Yep. Raped a nun.
Okay.
He's 12 years in prison.
Hey,
this is nothing.
He's holding up the bottle. He's like, we're gonna need like a boatload of these. His antipsychotics.
Just have all whatever this is. It's like Prozac and Valium mixed together.
So good. And then just he gets murdered. Woody Harrelson's in this movie for a hot minute.
I mean, the plane crashes first. Like,
the plane crash. A lot of things happen. But then him getting murdered. Oh my God. Him getting shot is so hilarious. It's completely unexpected, but my God, because at first you're like, oh my God, what the fuck? And then when you hear the shot, and then he goes in, he's like, oh, he's not dead, he's fine. And then you hear another shot, and he's like, oh, nope, he's dead. He's dead for sure now. Like, that is a level of gallows humor that a movie of this level you do not expect to have in it. And it's so fantastic.
Absolutely. It was a shocking moment. It was like, wow, they went there. They killed the hero by accident because he's
a rapist.
Rapey, terrible person. And he just was in a picture.
Yeah, and they're like, how are we going to get this? How are we going to get out of this? Like,
I don't know if you caught this moment, but it's when, I believe it's before William H. Macy goes in and talks to De Niro and Anne Heche. And he's like, have they decided what they want to do with them? Either do this or drop them in the country.
Yeah.
And they end up, after that plane crashes, being dropped in the country, right? They're technically, they're in there. So you always wonder, like, hey, did the FBI fuck with their plane?
Or the CIA? Completely. Yeah. Wow, I never even thought about that.
But they were dropped in the country. So, but I love how quickly and how confidently Stanley, Dustin Hoffman's character, is like, you know, we're fucked. He gets killed. We're fucked. Like, what's gonna happen? He's like, what's more triumphant than the return of the hero?
Yep.
And and he just optimistically is like, boom, third act, Act 3.
So, but let's talk about his undoing. The only thing that could make him risk his life from this entire debacle is that A, he won't get credit, and
I want
B,
the credit. Yep.
The credit is then given to the change horses and midstream dickheads.
Yeah.
And he can't. And I kind of love this about him. I
love do too, yeah.
I love that he is not, he, you know, and De Niro tells him, he's like, okay, now you're actually risking your life.
It's actually a sad moment for De Niro.
It completely is. He doesn't want to do it because he really likes his character.
Yeah, he's grown to love Stanley,
yep.
and at the same time, he's just like, yo, seriously, man. You can never talk about this. You know this.
Yeah.
And that conversation, he's like, he kind of is playfully talking about it throughout the movie.
He's like, no. I mean,
we're not going to talk about it, but when we do,
he's like, no, we never will. And it happens like 3 or 4 times, but that final. Yeah.
But Connie, Robert De Niro, is a hypocrite because the whole movie he's talking about, you thought that was real? Did you think that was real? You know, like, he's doing what he's telling him not to do.
That's a really good point. Although he always has a trick up his sleeve of being like, I don't know, what do you think? Like, he always then backs down from it. But you're totally right. He is a hypocrite.
God damn, this movie is so fun.
It's so good. It's so damn good. Again, if you have not seen this movie, like, there is a part of me that wants to do this time travel style project and say, is there any way this movie could get made today? Because I think that we're in a very contentious space of what's real and what's not. And it keeps getting weirder and it keeps getting worse. And so I wonder, like, you know, you go 90s, pre-internet, Clinton scandal, you go, oh, it's a cute thing to talk about. But nowadays it's kind of like fucking with somebody's religion.
It's just more in your face, right? The creating a crisis to distract something.
False flag, man. False flag. Think about it. We live in a day and age now where there has had to be lawsuits about the Sandy Hook shootings against people who think that those people were crisis actors who never lost children. So not only does your kid get fucking shot to death in their school, but then you have somebody like sending you pictures of your kids saying that they're an actor for the next 10 years, so you have to take them to fucking court. Like, we are in a completely different world now where, like, I don't know if, like, Wag the Dog as an artifact is gorgeous and funny and so perfect of a movie.
Perfect.
But to try and make it today, I'm like, just leave it alone.
I always
don't do it.
I always love asking that questions of movies that are 20 years or older. What would happen if this was made today? I think that's a very relevant thing. And I think that's what makes classic movies, right? That's what makes things great, is because they're timeless.
Yeah.
But also, to your point, like, just personal justification is terrible.
Yeah, it's terrifying, man. Like, the last thing you want is to be like, who does this encourage?
Yeah.
This is an awful question, but Anyway.
Such a great movie. We've been gushing about it. If you can't tell, we love this movie.
Yes.
I'm
Wag
really
the Dog,
excited about this.
Please check it out.
Please subscribe. We have new episodes every week. I'm super excited for this festival. Like the movies we're doing, the topics we're talking about. So exciting.
You know what's one thing I didn't think about, and it came
What,
up.
Sherlock? You totally did.
I know I did. Well, I was scratching my face, and then I was like, "Hey, bud." No, but it's sorry, but it's true. Like one thing I didn't really think about when we came up with this idea, is like, yes, the political fictions themselves are so much fun.
Yeah.
But the eras they exist in, and then, as you're saying, this timelessness, how they then play today, I feel like we're going to keep talking about this with all 4 episodes of like, what if they made it today? Would people be 100%. Like, no, you can't make that? Like, our movie next week being there. I'm like, if you made that movie, would somebody have something very different to say about it today than they did 40 years ago when it was made? So,
but there's something beautiful about saying it the first time and being right.
Yeah. Yeah. Even if you're like, 50 years ago, I had this to say in a political fiction movie I made.
Sure.
And I'm more right today than I ever was. And I hate that about myself in this movie. Right? Like,
how many times has The Simpsons predicted the future?
I mean, that's just it. I mean, but they are literally, The Simpsons is literally the analogy of the 30 monkeys in a room on typewriters. like if you just do a show for long enough with enough different versions of reality, you'll get right like 15 times.
No doubt.
Yep.
Awesome movie, amazing conversation.
Yes.
Please go see this movie if you haven't. Next week we are doing Being There with Peter Sellers, directed by Hal Ashby. Excited to get into that one. Please subscribe again. We have new episodes every week. Please follow along with the festivals.
Yes.
That's what we do this for, but we also have a bunch of one-off stuff that is super fun as well. So please subscribe, and we will talk to you next week.
Bye, you guys. Dude, the last one where you punked me with the John Cusack film, The Ice Harvest, like that was fucking good.
Good, yeah.
Like you could actually see me like, what? Like I had no idea. It was so good. It was such like a pure moment of me being like, just a half a second, like I knew that we were talking about the ice storm, but for a fucking half a second I was like, I watched the wrong movie.